Staying up late to finish writing the last 4 planning proposals, Chen Tong, the third wife, collapsed on the keyboard. Opening my eyes again, I suddenly realized that I was in a strange meeting place. Chen Tong, who inexplicably became a new member of the Time and Space Council Bureau, said that with someone else's strong talent, she has become a skilled inheritor. When the small cannon fodder drives the main plot, there is a long way to go. Internship time and space encounter obstacles everywhere, and mission time and space are all kinds of strange things, which makes it clear that when will I end up? Chen Tong. Let's destroy it, sir. Someone, rubbing hands. Do you want to join us? 5 insurances and 1 fund. Let's hold hands and cause trouble in various worlds, definitely happier than before. Chen Tong. Get lost. Get out of here, the culprit. This book is also known as The Story of Unfair Workers. The New World Gate kicked open with one kick, the Council of Time and Space. We choose people and never look at species. Including but not limited to. Tai Chi debuts Love Beam Pink. A 1-month country love, deep mountain and old forest vampires. Aren't robots human, witch gathering. The road to wholesale garlic and get rich, postmodern heavy metal rock. Master my stove, mama is not ruthless, her status is unstable. Little Lord, your high-end package has arrived, if I were given 3 days off. Sleeping until the end of the world, strong alliance times a quick work times love and kill each other, complaining spouse is born naturally times, playing the pig and eating the tiger, times, be or he, this is a question, abnormal author's quirky imagination, welcome to Squat. Handing melons, keywords of the novel. The worker who enters the system refuses to work overtime without a pop-up window, the worker who enters the system refuses to work overtime. Download the complete TXT collection, and the worker who enters the system refuses to work overtime. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Newcomer Chen Tong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Newcomer Chen Tong, didn't you say you're not available this month? Don't arrange blind dates. Don't arrange blind dates. Their child knows how to make soy sauce, it's none of my business. I'm living a good life alone. Why do I have to get married and suffer? You pitiful and pitiful me. I haven't finished this job yet, how can I have time to go out and eat? Chen Tong on the other end of the phone was secretly competing with him on the other end. Yes, I don't deserve it. Also, please don't worry about it. Chen Tong angrily hung up the phone. The mother.in.law and mother.in.law in their hometown are piled up with trivial matters and the marriages of children from various families. Before they understand it, they are busy giving advice to other families. Chen Tong, as an outsider, not only seemed outrageous to them, but also somewhat bewildered. In terms of the reason, it is probably because a man should marry a woman, and this girl insists on wandering around alone. Compared to her playmate who has 3 children in the same village, she is truly lacking in heart. How can we live in the future when we are young and don't find a home? Chen Tong was speechless about this. How reliable is it to find someone to take care of it? You also said that people want you to be young, but don't even think about what to do if you are old and pale. Don't take advantage of your youth to leave some wealth for yourself. When you're old, you don't have the ability to make a living. She disdains arguing with those elderly people, but Chen's mother is greatly affected. Watching her daughter wandering around without a home day by day, Chen's mother naturally feels heartbroken. The old family took the opportunity to apply eye drops to her. Isn't the child busy with work and without time? You can arrange a blind date for her during the holiday, but she still has reason to refuse. You can't let your child bear the burden for the rest of their life. How can a mother not think about her daughter? This statement is simply killing, it directly made the weak Chen mother make up her mind. Unconsciously, Chen Tong was tricked into having dinner by his mother. Looking at the strange man with a nouveau riche temperament, Chen Tong even went to the wrong place. After a little inquiry, he found that he had not gone wrong, while the person across from him was coming for a blind date and was currently waiting for the girl. Chen Tong, wearing sunglasses and a mask, decisively flashed. Chen Tong, who never thought he would enter the business of being urged to marry, pondered on his life. She emphasized this multiple times and hoped that Mrs. Chen wouldn't worry too much. But every time she speaks with a little emphasis, Mrs. Chen will shed tears. She seemed to feel both reasonable and unreasonable in her grievances, which made her brain ache with anger. My mother is like this, let alone the company. Both sides sparred, as if she owed them something. The desperate woman who gave herself the last boost of amplifying the fake after writing the plan, worked hard to complete the last 4 plans and fell on the keyboard. Opening my eyes again, I suddenly realized that I was in a strange meeting place. A huge long conference table on the field is like a running ring inside a sports stadium, with dark shadows on all sides of the table. Someone snapped their fingers and raised a wide curtain from a distance. There was no one on the curtain, only a sound wave. After the curtain fell, the other shadows were illuminated from the outside to the inside, all of which were projections of real people. Only those who are devoted to their work will be selected by the Council of Time and Space. You are all elites in the inner circle. Today, we are calling for everyone to shine and heat up in the limited time to correct the protagonist's increasing laziness in different time and space. The host's speech is passionate and infectious. Chen Tong was listening in a daze. Shouldn't she have fallen into that sales trap? As soon as this thought came to mind, I was suddenly in a cold sweat. Do you have any thoughts on today's meeting? A complete silence. Since everyone has no objections, let's wait. Chen Tong didn't know where the courage came from, but after shouting these 2 words, he didn't know what to say. At the same time, the voice prince remained silent, as if recognizing the source of the pronunciation. Number 996, oh, new here. Chen Tong keenly noticed that everyone's gaze was converging on her, and couldn't help but nervously swallow his saliva. I forgot to tell everyone that this colleague managed 3 clients in 4 days, completed 19 planning projects, and even sacrificed 2 blind dates for work, which can be considered a model of hard work. I believe that she, with her heart locked in hard work, can adapt to the high-intensity work rhythm of the Time and Space Council and lead the company to a new glory. Come, let's welcome the arrival of new colleagues with the warmest applause. Chen Tong. Chen Tong. Chen Tong. The scene erupted with the same enthusiasm as a superstar concert, while the only newcomer on stage was chaotic in the wind. Seeing that Chen Tong had no expression on his face, everyone became even more enthusiastic and said, "Don't be surprised, you're a big shot. It's been a long time since I last saw a newcomer, big shot, take a look at me." The selection criteria are getting stricter year by year, so you can still be selected. The ability of the big shot is absolutely top-notch. Come to our group, big shot. The cheers followed one wave after another, and the host coughed, causing everyone to suddenly fall silent as if they had been silenced. He glanced at Chen Tong outside of his condition and said, "Number 996 has already been reserved by the he-ending team. I hope everyone can provide more assistance to the new employee to help her quickly adapt to the new working conditions." "Ah, he team. That's our B team's high climber. What are you saying? It's all internal strife within the same bureau. Is that interesting? Why are you the main female lead joining in the fun? Whether it's he or B doesn't affect you either. Why argue? If you have the ability to show your performance, the he group is stronger than the B group. Tear it louder. Chen Tong. Let's not worry about the horse-catching scene for now, those are not important. No, I'm starting now. What about the procedures? What about the contract? What about salary and benefits? What are the job responsibilities and working hours? Have these people considered her opinion?" As she was about to speak, she suddenly caught a ghostly bubble popping up from the back of her hand. The bubble passed through her suspended tabletop, transforming into a holographic panel that appeared in the air. On the panel lay a contract, with all her handwriting and fingerprints on it. I have closed your data sharing, you can ask me any questions you like. Now please be patient and complete the process. Although I am not sure about the situation, her information is all on the panel, and Chen Tong feels it is necessary to calm down. Silence. That strange sense of authority has returned. Everyone obviously gave face to the speaker and kept silent. Now we need to follow a routine and report and commend the completion of the tasks in the first 10 days, on numbers 466, 475, and 937, the world line correction speed tied for first place, with a special bonus of 10 points, on numbers 214 and 348, each with 2 or 3 points, with a special bonus of 5 points. I hope everyone can follow suit and become the backbone of the group as soon as possible, shining and contributing to the future. Correspondingly, we need to criticize the inefficiencies of the following 3 individuals. We hope that the 751st, 493rd, and 599th teams can work hard to improve their homework efficiency and keep up with everyone's pace. However, the numbers 823, 555, and 742 will be removed from the conference signing list due to their inconsistency with the conference agenda. They will be projected onto the lost surface through cleaning measures, hoping that they can regain their original intention and return as soon as possible. The new round of assessment standards have been distributed to everyone's ideological game platform. Please check your inbox. The short-term meeting has come to an end. Thank you for your cooperation. Fortunately, one-way data could not be perceived by others on the field, otherwise everyone could have heard Chen Tong's howl. After the main speaker reported, information sharing was closed, which left her without even the opportunity to ask questions. Xiao A has already told her sister through EEG, and all subsequent questions will be answered by Xiao A. The little ghost appeared on the panel with grievances. Why doesn't this person play cards according to the routine? I ask you, what is this place? The holographic conference room of the Time and Space Council, where all the images of the activists will be displayed. How could I be here? I'm not an employee in your bureau. You are a staff member of the HE team of the Space and Time Council Bureau, with the number HE.996. As you have heard, the Space and Time Council Bureau will select personnel from various worlds who have exactly the required abilities to participate in the action. And you were selected precisely because of your outstanding action efficiency. When the word excellent action efficiency came out, Chen Tongren became numb. Emotions are the pots of 19 planning proposals and 3 party A's pots. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. He group that will die if stubborn. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 2. He group that will die if stubborn. Xiao A saw that Chen Tong was silent and thought she was flattered, so he enthusiastically introduced her. The Time and Space Council recommends different commissioners to participate in activities based on the needs of different time and space, providing correction and promotion services for the direction of the world line for each time and space, and assisting in the continuation and sustainable development of the main and branch lines causality. Oh. Among the billions of world lines distributed, collected, and organized through omni-channels in various time and space, he once had an overwhelming advantage due to its natural affinity for human nature. This data has also become one of the reference points for the allocation of personnel in the Time and Space Council. Based on the selection of the overall environment, almost all new employees have been considering joining the HE group since 3 years ago. Xiao A stopped to check Chen Tong's acceptance level, but found that the other side was completely stunned and not in a state of mind. That's it, let's get out of my dream. Chen Tong yawned, or she could just get out. I have claimed all the planning cases, why did Party A come to torment people in their dreams? Chen Tong thought for a while and only found out this relationship clearly. The consequence of wasting too many brain cells is that he doesn't have the heart to listen to the rest. Xiao A. Number 996 Chen Tong, this is not a dream. Repeat, this is not a dream. Ha. Okay, it's not a dream. You keep talking, what's going on with the B team? According to the B team, the smell of gunpowder is not light. The B group is the strongest individual team in the bureau, they work independently and naturally do not match the group division of labor with he. Originally, the personnel growth of B and he was rotating, but since the new policy was exposed in the bureau 3 years ago, combined with various performances of personnel turnover, it has ultimately caused dissatisfaction from the B group leader, who is known for his ruthlessness. In his view, the he team is still adding manpower despite having the most resources, but the B team has to work hard and almost use them 1/3, which has really given the he team too many benefits. In order to correct the crazy trend of the B group, under pressure, the he group specially formulated an internal regulation, which was widely spread and only removed the dagger from the Yen country map in the last sentence. For whatever reason, those who mess up will die. The sudden surge of enthusiasm made Chen Tong tremble with fear. Next, you will enter the internship space, and all behaviors will be recorded and scored by Xiao A. Please carefully read the following precautions to prepare for the training team leader's irregular spot checks during the internship space. Xiao A is working hard, but Chen Tong can't ask anything. She leaned back helplessly, floating in the air like she was trapped in a sofa, sighing, "It's not this dream. It's just a matter of catching a strong man, we still have to take an exam." Chen Tong hasn't taken the exam for 3 or 4 years. Who knows how many things this brain can remember. As an old worker using the test tube, she can only be said to be ignorant. She has such a mixed mind that she can come up with such a dream plot. Don't be so negative, the team leader doesn't test your theory. He depends on your actions. Well, it's similar to your time and space novels and TV dramas. You just run around and join a group performance, and try to push the plot to develop according to the original plan. As long as you are serious and efficient, you can definitely be promoted to the next level in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Anyway, you'll make a lot of money. To make a living, you have to spend money. Now I need to sleep, stop tinkering, and rest. Chen Tong tried to convince herself that in her eyes, Xiao A was just a product of her own consciousness, and if she really wanted to negotiate, she had to talk to herself. She lay on the table, about to start feeling dizzy, and suddenly felt a chill in her back. Pa! Received a crisp and loud slap. Get up your labor. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Is just TM. Your name is 996. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 is just TM. Your name is 996. The person came from all walks of life, with 4 or 5 princess stickers on each face. Perhaps Chen Tong's gaze was too suspicious after being patted awake. The big man touched his bald head, then unconsciously tore off the strip on his face, carefully folding it and putting it in his pocket with a loving expression on his face. And then speaking up is a set of national essence, just TM, your name is 996, right? Chen Tong. She pulled over the little A next to her and whispered, who is this person? Xiao A flew to the side of the big man with a dog's leg and took out a bouquet of flowers from somewhere. Dear, let me introduce you solemnly. This is Vice Leader Lu of the He Team, you, with the number 753, who has just returned from your Northeast cultural works in that time and space. He can be considered a fellow villager in the same time and space as you. Considering that this is your first time participating in the activity, the Bureau thinks it's easier for you to accept him explaining it later, so we have arranged for him to do the remaining work. Oh, Mr. Lu, right. Long time. Deputy Team Leader Lu waved his hand and said, call me 753. Don't use the same name and surname here, don't be polite to me. Chen Tong pulled little A back from the shoulder of 753 and said, so what, I think you said it quite well. Don't bother Leader Lu. It's the deputy team leader, don't fuss, hurry up, you have to go in turn. The big man adjusted his wrist and ankle, causing Chen Tong's heart and liver to tremble. What a dream breaker. Still making people uneasy. With a mournful heart and a polite expression on the surface, Chen Tong showed a professional smile and said, "Okay Mr. Lu, he will be fine soon. Call me Lu. Call me Senior 753. The two walked on the data corridor bridge, one in front and one behind. It has to be said that although the 753 is a bit bulky, it still has the care and attention it deserves. Did you eat it? I didn't eat it. Oh, I'll ask. Chen Tong. You are truly honest and don't give any perfunctory feedback. Xiao Fei blew a breeze in her ear and said, I'm not afraid. Sister can eat and drink for free during the internship. Chen Tong. Thank you, oh, you are such a clever little ghost. I don't have much time to walk, but 753 has quite a lot of busy work to do. Chen Tong deliberately noticed that the other party had made at least 3 phone calls within a quarter of an hour. The content ranges from fighting and brawling to talking about beauty, from extravagance and waste to thrift and frugality, and from talking about the world to the earth, suddenly making sense. Truly deserving of the efficient selection requirements of the Time and Space Council, anyone can crush themselves, Chen Tong thought to himself. Can I also be so busy? How many phone calls do I have in a day? Chen Tong must have been exhausted, dreaming of working part-time as customer service when he was back in school. It's evident how much work has hurt her now, tsk. What, said the 753 Zhang monk, puzzled, isn't it just making phone calls? I understand. Chen Tong waved his hand, just like you do now, right? She has experience and thick skin, so she can definitely do good customer service. 753 didn't understand, but his intuition told him that 996, as a newcomer, probably misunderstood something. Telephone. Are you talking about this? He spread out his palm and a beautiful white shell lay in his palm. Chen Tong was puzzled. This is my innate skill, called mirage, which allows me to create a projection in the time and space where I need to take action, allowing the body to complete tasks without being physically present. Although I have to call him occasionally to ask what to do, my lack of autonomy is more than enough to solve the problem. Talent skills. Newcomers will have it through internships, and everyone is different. It depends on your nature, 753 suddenly softened. If you're lucky enough to get a high-efficiency job, remember to tell me, and I'll treat you to a drink. Thanks to the blessing of a mirage, his efficiency is quite high, otherwise he wouldn't have sat in the position of the second in command of the He team. If 996 can truly achieve efficient capabilities, it is something worth celebrating for the entire He team. Chen Tong tentatively asked a question, new and novice gift packages. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Don't die in front of me, hinder the eyes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Don't die in front of me, hinder the eyes. 753. No, do you all call it that way? But Tai Z, even if it's a beginner gift package, there's nothing wrong with it. If he wants it, he'll have to think about it. Isn't this a gift from the Bureau? 753 was probably deeply influenced by the northeastern cultural works in Xiao's mouth, and for a while, not only was he addicted to his mouth, but he couldn't even change his way of thinking. Chen Tong insisted on translating it in his mind before taking the conversation, fearing that he might accidentally be assimilated. Thank you, she refused to enter and a group of 753 came out. As you say, then this one is probably called a beginner's tutorial. Once you accept this novel thing, it is still very interesting. Not to mention anything else, my little girl must like this. Oh my mom, I accidentally learned something from a young person. Next time we meet, I'll see if my daughter finds him tacky. Chen Tong was completely unaware of what his quick words had helped her, and he was still thinking about how to express his intention to leave to 753. Although 753 looks like a tiger with a bear's back and a bear's waist, his words are nothing but a little faster than his head, and he can't find any other flaws. But she doesn't have the appearance of a treacherous person, but why is she so arrogant? Hush, don't say it, the more you look at this face, the more familiar it becomes. Wait a minute. Brother, I heard you just came back from that corner in the northeast. That's not a big deal, you'll have to hear it, old lady. 753 touched his bald head, TSK, without any stickers, his face was still very handsome. Chen Tong tried very hard to restrain his overflowing emotions and said, so you were in that place, didn't you? Just finished a task. Is it a newcomer who connects? Is it called Chen Tong? Bald Boss 753 slapped his forehead, there's such a thing. He even yelled at that child on the phone. A big deal, it took 5 or 6 times to fix, I don't know if I thought he was asking too much, let the audience have a higher sense of participation, and don't let everyone stand below without knowing what to do, creating a sense of marginalization, we need to be more high-end, but not too high. It's best to touch the local atmosphere to make the meeting discussion thoughtful, there should also be a style, preferably a compromise between Chinese and Western cultures, but not too obvious, otherwise others will scold, oh, it's even cheaper, but don't be too cheap, otherwise the above effect won't work. Is there a lot? Not much. 753 pondered while recalling, how did he get along with the little girl he was in contact with at that time? Anyway, I clearly told her at the time that it was inconvenient to talk about anything, and I didn't know what the girl was busy with all day long. She procrastinated and didn't say anything, and the deadline for submitting the plan was getting later and later. Ask yourself if he can cooperate. Alas, procrastination among young people needs to be treated. The person 996 was messy in the wind. The emotional mouse fell into the cat pile again. But please, please, please. She just came out of it. Do you want to be a person to break dreams? Don't imitate that little girl. Tian Gu and Ji's calls are quite sweet, and their work is really slow like a snail. If he team doesn't raise idle people, it's really impossible to be wiped out. Regardless of the reason, those who lay waste die. 753 glanced at Chen Tong and said, I advise you to take care of yourself. For the next 10 minutes, Chen Tong was brainstorming. Sleeping slot, breaking party A. Kill 1,000 vampires. What do you think I am, blue fatty? You killed 30% of the price for that plan-solving case, or did I stay up late to catch up? The conditions are so many that I can't even match them everywhere. You're so talkative, what have you done before? I don't have any points in my mind. Don't apply group image to yourself. Gone. Roast in front of her, Chen Tong was annoyed. Get out of here, can't I still do it if I don't do it? She doesn't want to stay for a moment for this broken dream. Yo, I didn't see it's still a problem. 753 unexpectedly, the other party reacted so much to a roast that he became angry. The little girl, thin and tall, looks quite elegant. Why is she so rebellious in her bones? Just like his girl, preaching is not something I want to hear at all. How can she grow without listening to the experience of her predecessors? What does she consider herself to be? Can you live by sunbathing? People need to eat. Listening to advice and having enough to eat, this is a truth that a 3-year-old child doesn't know. Even a young girl like this doesn't understand. What kind of temper are you playing? Don't stare at me, even if you stare at me, you have to come with me for an internship. If you join the he team, you have to follow the arrangements, otherwise. 753 grinned and little A immediately ran behind Chen Tong, who was on his hips, with no backbone. Chen Tong noticed it, but didn't think much. Ask the little thing behind you what happened next. Previous one. Xiao A floated in her ear, the previous one died. Don't frame me, rule of law. Chen Tong exclaimed with some uncertainty as he looked at the confident gaze of 753 watching the show. Society. Hiss, what are you doing? Little A stretched out a tip from somewhere and stabbed her ear. As soon as the big blood beat of dough was spoken, it immediately made Chen Tong anxious. Does it hurt? In addition to impatience, the brain runs rapidly. What about the agreed data? Isn't she virtual? The spatiotemporal council is not as simple as the owner thinks. Xiao A only knows that Deputy Leader 753 is not a bad person. Repetition, this is not a dream. Chen Tong gritted his teeth and quietly stepped back on the corridor bridge. Let's lie to me together. What gang is committing the crime? I advise you to let me go back immediately, otherwise I will call the police. TSK, another one with a hole in his head. Is this the quality of the people selected in the bureau? Or is it because I chose it before closing the door and had no other choice? Show her, 753 said, holding her arm and looking at her with an unpleasant gaze. Xiao A received it. The scene unfolds, with a dejected figure sitting on the highest staircase, with its back to the moon, and a shaky figure standing behind him, flashing a sharp blade. The figure leaned slightly towards her, and the thermos in his hand was sent to her, as if inviting. He showed half of his face in the darkness, his lips moved, but he didn't say anything. Until the next second, the blade fell. Chen Tong's face was covered in the bright red of that moment, and he instinctively took another step back. Don't give up. How did you think he died? If you can't change reality, try accepting it. No matter where you come from or what you do, don't think about leaving when you come to the Time and Space Council Bureau. If you don't do well, you'll die, but if you do well, you'll retire at the end of the term. They won't seek your opinion. 753 has been digitized, and I don't know where to pull out a cigarette to light it. What you see now is that I'm not in front of you, and I won't hit you either. Who didn't come over like this at first? Do you think I'm a fool? Believe what others say. I don't care if you want to kill me, but what I despise the most is threats. Taking a long puff of smoke, 753 seemed to believe that Chen Tong wouldn't believe him. If you're going to die, don't die in front of me, it's eye-catching. The man turned his head, and the smoke around him became even more weathered. He worked so hard because of his daughter. And so coincidentally, because it is a person with more weight and high efficiency in whatever they do, they were selected by the Time and Space Council. Another puff of smoke, 753 hesitated for a moment, feeling a bit dejected as he passed his hands over his head. He doesn't want to see how 996 died. Please note that as the deputy team leader, 753 does not need to do such a small thing as leading new members. Please continue walking through the digital corridor bridge for 996. Time and Space Council. He Group Level 1 Danger Directive. 5, 4, 3, 2. 753 impatiently extinguished his cigarette and prepared to leave. Wait a minute. Chen Tong suddenly stopped him. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Song Zhixi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Song Zhixi. The He team has a staff member number 996, who is a newcomer and lacks experience. Please bear with Vice Leader Lu 753. It's not that 753's heartfelt efforts made her trust, but rather the inverted image of little a. The young man in the hospital uniform put down the thermos and turned his gaze from her to look into the distance. Following his gaze, Chen Tong could see a beautiful star in a tall tree blocking the sky and sun. He was so calm, as if he had already known his future. He saved you. Follow him. Chen Quosh was surprised for the first time by her unwarranted trust, which had no source but was truly perceived by her. But she racked her brains and couldn't recall where she had seen him. The alarm for the digital corridor bridge has been lifted, and 753 continues to rush towards the entrance of the internship space with Chen Tong. Little A flew like a dog leg next to Chen Tong, as if he was much more familiar than just now. Perhaps little A knows that he mostly accepts fate. Despite this, Chen Tong still wanted to break the clay pot and ask, "Who is he?" "Who? Just show me that one." 753, who was leading the way ahead, suddenly stopped. "Arrived." Chen Tong poked his head out from behind him with suspicion. The circular entrance stands on both sides, and the only internship space emits a faint blue light, opening the door to her in an unknown way. Xiao A smiled and flew around the entrance. "Yaya, new." 753's face unexpectedly became heavy. "The data regulation, Xiao A, will be transmitted to you, and if necessary, you can call it out. At that time and space will stagnate, so try to call it as little as possible. There is no need to deliberately search for talent. Remember, efficiency is the key to rating." Chen Tong nodded in confusion and was about to answer when he was suddenly forcefully torn into his mouth. The shock on his face had not yet subsided, and he had already stood steadily on the other side of the entrance. EMNNN, this makes her fright somewhat affected. But don't worry about it the next second. Don't be fooled by Chen Tong's steady step, the next step is the steps. She accidentally stepped on it without realizing it, and the momentary weightlessness made her heart jump and fall. "Mom, it's exciting. Are you checking the regulations?" "Sent." "It doesn't matter if you don't look, you'll be startled at first glance. A densely packed text treaty, apart from responsibility, is also responsibility." Chen Tong thought about the voiceover of 753 and felt that there seemed to be some loopholes to follow. "Ahem, don't you have any beginner tutorials? Is she just a little shrimp wandering around?" "Master, do you call me?" Xiao suddenly jumped out, almost causing Chen Tong to stumble again. "I didn't call you out. I'm asking for a beginner's tutorial." "There's no beginner's tutorial available. The internship time is relatively stable, and there aren't so many bugs. You just need to promote a main thread in it, it's very simple." "What is the main storyline?" "Oh, I forgot to post the background, right. Let me take a look. The Yao family in Qinghe." "Got it. Your current identity is the daughter of a craftsman who came to the mansion to repair the garden. You need to find a way to promote the meeting between the Yao daughter and the Qin young master. However, Yao's daughter from Qinghe has always been weak and never leaves the mansion. Your actions may only be taken from the other side." "So simple." "Of course it's not that simple. The internship space captures a point of the task space, and there are naturally people responsible here. You must remember not to conflict with them." "No, you always have to tell me who he is, right? Xiao A has signed a confidentiality agreement and cannot disclose it unless his mission fails or he voluntarily exposes it. Having said so much, besides knowing that there is a colleague here who may be like an explosive pack, there is no useful information at all." Chen Tong was annoyed and directly fanned the person back into the void. "Okay, the top priority is to find Miss Yao and Prince Qin first and make a quick decision. Song Zhixi. Song Zhixi." As soon as Chen Tong took 2 steps, he saw a girl in a goose-yellow dress running towards her with a skirt hem in her hand. The girl's bun was slightly messy, and her red round face was covered in shiny sweat. As soon as she opened her mouth, half of her tiger teeth snatched the mirror, her head held high in anger, resembling the little butterfly dog kept by the neighboring tenant. "Cough, no cursing, no cursing. Where have you been? Your dad is looking for you." Lei slammed the brakes in front of her, gasping for breath. This childhood playmate had a brain teaser. He didn't like to talk, but he particularly liked to run around. If he didn't pay attention, he wouldn't be able to find anyone. She's the only one who works as a servant in Yao Mansion and can still help find it, otherwise old Song will be very anxious, okay? Song, brain pits, Chen Tong, Zhixi. Where did the dad come from? Master Chen. Master, it's only been a while since you've forgotten your background again. Of course, it's your current identity as the father of Song Zhixi. Go ahead, just haven't turned a corner. Do you feel that this little beauty's gaze at me isn't right? It seems like I'm watching a fool. Chen Tong, who was pulled back, thought so. Hey, normal. During the internship, you were even more pedestrians than passers-by, which indirectly reduced the difficulty. After all, being a background board requires a good acting and operation. Thank you, I was not comforted. The sister-in-law took her to take a shortcut, and at the same time she focused on educating her. You have so many street hooligans, and you are so stupid. How can Father Song deal with it alone? In the future, there will be more dim sum. Don't run around every day, and help him more. Chen Tong knows a little bit about this. Those without land are called flow, and those without houses are called hooligans. After walking and running all the way, Chen Tong probably understood some of the current situation. She, Song Zhixi, is the daughter of a Song craftsman in the north of the city. She has a house, a horse, and savings. She has been slow to speak since childhood, and her father is the ultimate aspiration of the elderly Gnawing family. Her father's full name is Song Hongchun, and he is one of the top craftsmen. Unfortunately, the Song family's wife left early, leaving behind a daughter like Song Zhixi. Song Hongchun is both nostalgic and passionate. Not only does he have a good skin, but he is also steady and cultured. Even with a wooden daughter, she never complained and pulled the little girl to adulthood. At first, many people advised him to continue playing, but after being rejected a few times, he could only shake his head and say that other girls were not lucky. Judging from this image, it probably belongs to the level of handsome uncle. Not very easy to handle. But this does not prevent Chen Tong from howling in his heart. You still have to be your own playmate. Xiaowei didn't even mention the plot of that trivial matter, only saying that her situation was unnecessary. Knowing too much would make things more complicated. But she never thought about asking San what she would look like without knowing. Looking at the increasingly clear eaves corridor, little Lei couldn't help but raise her tone, and even Chen Tong could feel her scorching palms like a small stove. Oh, here we are. Father Song, your family's joy is here. The person standing with a negative hand beside the butler turned around when he heard the news. Even though he couldn't see his expression clearly against the light, Lei still smiled as if she had seen her own family, happily leading the person towards her. The next second he saw the person in front of him clearly. Chen Tong thought, it was broken. He is a clever person who is not easy to fool. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. My son is foolish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. My son is foolish, just come back. The handsome uncle naturally took her hand. Chen Tong was a bit confused, but when he remembered his character, he still didn't dare to speak up. Lei and the butler next to them looked at each other with ease. No one in the 10 miles and 8 townships knew that Song Zhixi couldn't be found if he wasn't careful, so he had to hold on to it. Your daughter has grown so big, is it called Zhixi? Zhixi, don't run around next time, make it easy for your father and Uncle Ding to find her. Butler Ding slightly bent down and stroked his beard, laughing so hard that he couldn't see his teeth, as if some elder in the clan cared about her. Chen Tongmu stared straight ahead in a daze. She's just blind now, she doesn't listen or care about anything. The little girl is dull, I hope Butler Ding doesn't blame her. Handsome uncle pulled Chen Tong's arm at the right time to help her out. Song is here to compensate for her. The butler quickly stepped forward to stop him and said, hey, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Who among the neighbors doesn't know about your girl's situation? Who would blame her? Apologize for this, I'm afraid it's not a pastime for my old man. Song and Ding chatted back and forth with each other, and besides describing Chen Tong as wanting to dig a hole in the ground, there was really nothing wrong with anything else. Finally, she yawned. It may be a bit untimely, but yawning is often something that cannot be suppressed. Zhixi wants to go home. Song Hongchun threw down the conversation and asked her. He is truly a father and daughter, truly considerate. So the father and daughter went home like this. Chen Tong kept pondering whether he had done something to make Uncle Shui realize. Otherwise, why did he stare at her for so long, as if thinking about something serious? The frowning expression instantly opened and knelt down. Is Zhixi hungry? What does Zhixi want to eat now? Do Zhixi want to go buy new clothes with his father? Zhixi, look at the newly made kite for my father. Do you still want to play with Zhixi? The joy of joy. Even Chen Tong couldn't slow down. It seems like just an illusion, Mr. Song still firmly believes that she is his original daughter. She just said, who wouldn't know how to play a fool? Chen Tong thought to himself. So Chen Tong continued to be foolish, saying that she was not hungry, just sleepy and needed to sleep. Cheap Dad took her directly to her own room upon seeing the situation and told her that he was staying in the front yard. If there were any problems, he would call him directly. Chen Tong watched expressionlessly as he rolled away the bedding from the next door. There is a strong sense of guilt about occupying a magpie's nest. Why do you think so much? It's a good thing to have less intersection, she convinced herself and then threw herself onto Song Zhixi's bed. The quilt is thick and the curtains are light, so she should change frequently. She can't smell anything except the smell of the sun. The corners of the bedside decoration were polished very smoothly, and Chen Tong touched the scar on his knee. It seemed that Song Zhixi had suffered a lot from it. By the way, can I count it as soul-piercing? Ah, the master is really smart. This uncle and I have a simple father-daughter relationship, right? Otherwise. Now it's me asking you. We don't want to cause any chaos, and the owner is just a passerby on this journey. Don't worry unnecessarily. Get lost. Every time I have a conversation with Go A, I get angry. Its brain hole is beyond reach of Chen Tong. It's late autumn, it's getting dark early. The little maid specially brought the candles over, gave them away, but didn't leave. She introduced herself. The servant Rosin was bought by Mr. Song at the market and is usually responsible for the ladies' rest. The master instructed me to keep in touch with the ladies from today on, and you can tell me anything you want. Wait. What is? Starting from today. Chen Tong became wary. As if sensing her suspicion, Songxiang said again, the master said you've been lost. Yao Mansion has many affairs, and he can't leave to find you. In the future, whether going out or inside the mansion, he will always be better off with the same person. He said he's getting older, father and daughter are different, and you should also have a maid to follow. The explanation of Rosin was very timely, and Chen Tong breathed half of his heart. Upon careful consideration, this is indeed the case. Besides, if Song's father really realizes that she is not Song Zhixi, with his indulgence towards his daughter, he can let her go. Can Chen Tong still sleep in Song Zhixi's room? There is no problem with the logic. After careful consideration, Chen Tong decided to take a nap first, reverse the time difference, and wake up to make other plans. When did the adult come? How could I not know if I would let out a sound? The woman on the inner wall of the front yard lifted the bamboo curtain with a wooden edge and gently pressed Song Hongchun's shoulder. Song Hongchun held a scroll of four xios in his hand, his eyebrows furrowed lightly. His spacious clothes couldn't conceal his emaciation, and he stared at the sandalwood burning at the corner of the table, watching it slowly rise and dissipate, melting into the air. Starting tomorrow, I will close my door to greet guests. But is there a problem somewhere? It's still the Yao family. It's nothing. Song Hongchun rubbed his eyebrows, closed his eyes tightly, and spoke in a hoarse and lazy tone. If someone is called over there, you just need to follow the book and chapters, and I will go then. So. Tonight, won't you go back to the back door to guard Miss Shi? He slammed the pages of the book, his eyebrows furrowed with anger, and the woman stepped back and knelt on the ground, her behavior quick and neat, and she couldn't see the slightly delayed appearance just now. Song Hongchun stood up, his shadow several times that of him reflected on the window, with a strong sense of oppression as the candle flickered. Whatever she wants to do is up to her. There's only one thing. I want people to live. If you can't do this well, let's go back to it. The woman grabbed the ground with her head and apologized in embarrassment. Putting down the scroll in his hand, he moved to the window where he could see the full view of the backyard, but Song Zhixi's room was not lit as usual. Let's go down. The woman suddenly stood up, carefully closed the door, and returned to the guest room on the other side, stiff in the dark interior. Only Song Hongchuan's room in the front yard remains bright. My son is foolish. With a sigh, the candles in the front yard went out. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Homes for Workers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 8. Do you practice Tai Chi? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Do you practice Tai Chi? A waterfall on the edge of an unknown cliff. Chen Tong was draped in hay felt and couldn't help but shiver. Azu. The echo is loud, and at first glance, the cave is large and spacious. The door of the practice room is different from the door of the internship space. On the other side is a futuristic blue arc, while on the other side is the authentic water curtain hole. Thanks to the blessing of this water curtain, Chen Tong, who had become a drowned rat, was much more sober. She just can't understand why she started like this, isn't it pure torture? As soon as the wind blew, the cold air rushed through his pores with water as a medium towards his limbs. Chen Tong felt his hands tremble uncontrollably, like the crooked crutches leaning on the old lady who was looking at the door on the next 2 streets. Even if it's crooked and trembling, it still needs to be used, and crutches can be thrown, but not arms. Suddenly, there was a vibration above the dome, and after a familiar burst of startup music, a mechanical recitation sound came from above the dome. It sounds like some years ago, and even some cassette tapes. Welcome to the Tai Chi training class. Please carefully study the following precautions. During the training period, we will always ensure your safety. Tai Chi. Isn't it a martial arts secret book that she bought? A long silence. Chen Tong used his still frozen brain to think for a moment, but still couldn't figure out how he believed the boss's nonsense at the time. Oh, I remember, miss, I see your bones are amazing. It seems that you are good at practicing martial arts. Have you ever studied any traditional martial arts? Oh my, I knew it. Wasn't Miss Wang young enough to think about picking up her talent? It's a pity. The unscrupulous merchant took the opportunity to introduce their own martial arts blind boxes, saying that these broken jars have the opportunity to open the 9-in white bone claw, flower and wood transplantation technique, 18 dragon subduing palms, and other comprehensive martial arts blind boxes. I really got kicked in the head by a donkey. In vain, she used to laugh at Xiaoxiu's dark face in the next station. After all, Chen Tong had seen her drink the snowman milk tea for more than 3 months in a row, and had produced 100 identical tricks. Alright now, it's my turn. This kind of thing that normal people would laugh off, but unfortunately, they met Chen Tong, who was constantly encountering adventures. What's scary is that this girl really had a female hero dream when she was a child. When someone is black, don't think about sneaking into Europe the next second. For example, she was suddenly abducted into this strange organization recently, carrying the inexplicable title of King of Scrolls, and if she doesn't get involved in it in the future, she will have to die. And Chen Tong obviously forgot this one. Can we not learn? Chen Tong stood up carefully, draped in felt, shook the straw on his body, and smirked. My father is waiting for me to go back. There will be a curfew outside soon. It's not easy to explain if I return late. What I mean is, the secret script is great, but it may not be very suitable for me. Apart from strengthening my body, if you really want to deal with extremely vicious villains, it's not about rushing to get beaten up. She admitted that she was eager for quick success and instant benefits. After all, what she wanted was to fly eaves and walls, fight cows across mountains, and be a beautiful sword flower. But Tai Chi, alas, I didn't mean bad, but I was used to it and had a psychological gap. How do you know if you don't try? A female voice came from afar with sincere words. My Chin-style Tai Chi has been passed down to this day, and if I see future generations, I will never be stingy. Traveling on a long road, seeing the long mountains, knowing the distant meaning, waiting for the clouds to bloom. The good wind is not swaying, why sigh with sorrow? The female Taoist wore a wide robe and bowed directly to Chen Tong. With a hint of silver in the hair, there are wrinkles between the eyebrows. A wooden hairpin is used to tie up long hair, which looks quite handsome and elegant. The martial arts of the world are unified, and I am not just accepting Tai Chi. If you integrate and master it, you are undoubtedly the best. If you cannot, how can you endure the hardships of other martial arts? If the human heart lacks the snake to swallow the elephant, it is not called desire injury. The woman raised her hand lightly and draped the same robe over Chen Tong's shoulder. Chen Tong was dumbfounded by what she said, and for a moment she didn't know what the other party was up to. After speaking, she waved her sleeve and the scene changed. Thousands of disciples were marching on horseback in the martial arts arena, punching and moving with great care. Chen Tong's Taoist robe was worn on him at some point, leaving no trace of watermarks. She walked through the crowd under the guidance of the female guide, a beautiful child who was not as tall as the people around her, and muttered to herself. With a firm gaze, just like a spring breeze. Change again, the discipline hall inside the door. If a disciple shows signs of bullying the weak, they will be punished on their own. Those who refuse to improve after repeated teachings will be driven down from the mountain fortress. Some disciples curse, while others kneel long. Chen Tong stood by the head of the sect with the female Taoist, only looking back. The former disciples bid farewell to their respective sects and traveled far, either from merchants, to agriculture, or to official positions, each presenting their own unique experiences. The woman patted her shoulder. She led Chen Tong and the boy she had been staring at all the way east. The young man still carried his backpack and maintained his habit of being in the school, never slacking off. See the customs and traditions, see the hearts of all kinds. The only constant is his obsession with martial arts. In the age of 40, there were also people who sought fame and apprenticeship, but were persuaded to quit by his puzzle. Do you want to take a look? The woman asked her. Chen Tong's palms were covered in sweat. She gently shook her head in anticipation of the female Taoist. Song Hongchun ran around all the way, feeling palpitations all the way. He searched every corner of his home, but could not find the whereabouts of Razan and Song Zhixi. As a last resort, Father Song pulled out an old red silk and stumbled out of the middle hall, igniting it in the courtyard. Mars is falling, and a whirlwind is rising. Isn't it that you never want to see me again? You. The joy is gone. Song Hongchun seemed to have aged a lot in an instant. He interrupted the voice, help me find her. Please. I warned you earlier that this matter wouldn't work. The wooden person has no soul or soul. Even if you dress her up to look like a human, what will happen? Moreover, aquatic trees have an ethereal nature, are prone to decay, and with less than 3 years of effort, they will be knocked down and rebuilt. With this time, it's better to repair Wangong Jian as soon as possible, but you promised me. Song Hongchun's voice was hoarse. Even if I have promised you, your efficiency is not enough to talk to me about chips. The voice seemed to be aloof, and he lowered his eyes to pity him. Love and duty, I hope you have a clear understanding, don't be greedy. What is love? It's a lifelong pursuit of simplicity, but not even qualified to grow old. Father Song stared at the void with a gloomy and fierce expression. You should understand that I am not a soft persimmon. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Searching for Song Zhixi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Searching for Song Zhixi. Okay, I'll help you find it. That voice was sinister and funny, with a dry laugh. Don't say it so harshly. Immortality is something that many people crave. How could it turn into poison for you? I treat you well, why do you say this to hurt your harmony? Isn't it that you can't touch his wooden doll before the book is completed? It's just spending time with this old guy, no problem. Just before that, you have to tell me the exact completion time. You know, I enjoy dealing with smart people. Father Song was feeling lethargic and unable to lift his spirits, as if struggling. He hesitated and let out a long sigh, his muddy floor covered in stains. Give me another 3 months, he said, really. That's great. I mean, reluctantly. 446 and the stranger across from him clapped their hands to celebrate, seemingly confident that Song's father couldn't hear any sound outside. And the Song father, who was supposed to be deaf, instinctively adjusted his cloth towel and threw the 2 small things on it into the nearby grass. Now, give me your body. Father Song moved his shoulders and sighed inwardly that maintaining the youthful vitality of his body was indeed correct. Besides being able to work in the best condition, what is more important is meeting his needs. Ah, fresh flesh. What's the difficulty in finding someone in this small piece of land, let alone a wooden man with a clear goal? This Song Gong looks young, probably not because his mind is not working well. But as soon as he took 2 steps, he suddenly realized something was wrong. System, did you release your clone? No. What's going on in this time and space? He hasn't heard of any news of abnormal stagnation in time and space. The system pondered for a moment, is it possible that you were also selected for an internship space here? Although even he thought this idea was absurd. If a newcomer comes here, he should receive the message as soon as possible. However, in the current situation, no wonder Song Hongchun couldn't find anyone and was so impatient that he made concessions by burning silk. You should know that he had a big argument with 446 back then, and the 2 of them cut off their seats and robes, vowing not to interact in old age. As a secondary parasitic host, Song Hongchuan's activity range is only 3 miles from the time stagnation point, barely radiating to the southwest corner of the Song residence. I estimate that even the journey home is facing great resistance. Forget it, find someone first, and then retrieve the information when you go back. Don't come out yet, don't disturb time and space, and lose the clue. The search for Father Song took a long time. And where is the joy of Song for most of this day? She was being beaten by her master and had to carry water and take a horse stance after finishing. Master Zhu, please hit lightly. Chen Tong turned his head and dared not look, his heart trembling with fear of pulling his hand away at a glance. The female Dao smiled and patted her palm, like a small cotton ball of alcohol that numbs the heart before getting an injection. What are you afraid of? Didn't you feel very happy just now when I poured water for my junior brother? Don't be afraid, there are always clear rewards and punishments inside the door. This matter deserves a reward. I no more. After squatting on the board and taking a horse step, Chen Tong rubbed his neck and shoulders. This master truly deserves to be the strictest teacher in the sect, even among his disciples, he has to sit back and forth. Just as she wanted to do something good, her senior sister was completely doused with cold water from the other party, completely extinguishing her enthusiasm. Standing by my mentor's side year after year, watching my senior sister walk back to the venue in a perfunctory manner, I feel very guilty. He is the junior brother who caused Chen Tong to be punished. He wanted to plead, but Zhixi just waved his hand and refused him. From the beginning of punishment to the end of punishment, Zhixi stood straight with his arms held, thinking year after year that it was his own illusion. Zhixu's face remained tense and not very attractive. But it's not right, Zhixi punished people with no expression. Your senior sister is someone who wants to do big things. Only by being strict can we have a better future. Students who are not qualified or unwilling to work hard can apply to teach according to their aptitude within the school, but only to improve their physical fitness. But Chen Tong can't. She is from over there. What I'm afraid of is that she will give up because of it. Fortunately, Chen Tong was also very energetic, not only without slacking off, but also seemed to be more motivated. Early in the morning, I stepped on the plum blossom stakes to fetch water from the well. At noon, I carried a rice box to serve my disciples, and in the evening, I carried mountain firewood to practice my skills. Later on, apart from taking my junior brothers and sisters to the mountains to catch rabbits and pheasants every 3 days, lively like a wild man, the rest also followed my ancestors' preset path. Chen's mother used to live with her in a rural house by the river in her hometown. She knew how to fish and climb trees. Although he moved later, Chen Tong still misses that time. After Chen Tong burned the kitchen for the 3rd time, the little disciple in the kitchen couldn't bear it anymore and became a villain, Zhixi. Senior sister Chen has cooked the kitchen again. Chen Tong quickly wiped away the sweat and dust from his face, and poked his head out of the thick smoke. Pooh, can we call it cooking for martial artists? I'm learning, he said. Isn't there a martial arts cooking and sewing class inside the door? Don't you allow stupid birds to fly first. Talking too much is useless. In short, Chen Tong was ultimately pushed out of the kitchen by his disciples. According to eyewitnesses, when senior sister Chen went out, she still had a chopstick stuck in her head, suspected of being too engrossed in the fire and throwing the hairpin as a firewood stick. Chen Tong lost his fun and could only wander around the hillside. The hillside is covered with grass and trees, mixed with flowers and trees, winding paths leading to seclusion. Summer is actually cool, and she lies on the carved stone by the river, dipping her feet into the cold water and staring bored into the distance. I don't know what's going on outside either. She is not clear about the relationship between here and outside. I don't know if the stagnation of time outside will have a significant impact on her. I only know that the year spent here is truly joyful. It seems like she was born here without any tasks or party, so it's better for her to return to simplicity or put on a bad and depressed demeanor. If possible, it would be great to stay here forever. As long as you don't touch the inner door for the martial arts competition. What are you afraid of? What do you mean? I, a rookie of the year, will draw lots to fight with 4th senior brother. Is that so outrageous? Can't we fight our junior brother? Senior brother, that elm-headed guy is so stubborn that he can't do anything. Don't even pity him. He's a butcher who's halfway through becoming a monk, and his actions carry a murderous aura. Senior sister, come on, my junior brother said year after year, shaking his head. Chen Tong was about to speak when he suddenly saw his junior brother freeze. Master, come out quickly, I can't carry the bag anymore. Little suddenly tore open a seam and scaled out the panel. I know who the taskmaster of that time and space is now. It's Song Hongchun. Chen Tong was shocked by this information and said, "What are you talking about?" She couldn't believe that Mr. Song was actually an explosive bag. Based on her impression, he had a very good temper. Is there a mistake somewhere? No mistake, only the same kind can move freely in a static gravitational field. I watched him find it with my own eyes. With my own eyes. Chen Tong suddenly stood up and said, "Who is in Song Zhixi's body now?" She pushed against Song Zhixi's body. So what is Song Zhixi now? Is it a vegetative person? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Saving Beauty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Saving Beauty. So it's here. Father Song picked up Song Zhixi and shook him like a chicken, looking left and right. At the moment when the gravitational field was released, he locked onto the person, but to his chagrin, he found it only a second time when the other party was not far from Song's house. It's like being covered by something. Scared to death, I said it must be a wooden person. At first glance, he really thought that Song Hongchun had created something from his era. After all, the skin covered in wood was no different from that of a real person. But upon closer inspection, her eyes were empty and she didn't have much popularity. Chen Tong frowned as he looked at Song's father swaying Song Zhixi on the panel, his frivolity and disdain almost making him look completely different from his previous acquaintance. Also, what is a wooden person? Is it because Song Zhixi stayed before? Mind it, the top priority is to get out quickly, otherwise it won't be easy to be discovered by the other party. Little A has a strong career ambition, afraid that the other party may discover the clues in a short time. Otherwise, his theft of privileges will be exposed. What do you say if you go out now? Sorry, could you please let me down first? Chen Tong took a deep breath and pressed the panel brake. No, wait a little longer. Wait until the other party realizes something is wrong before speaking. However, the subsequent development clearly caused one person to unite and both to remain silent. After a moment of contemplation, Father Song put down Song Zhixi. Then, as if venting his hatred, he slapped Rosin's face. A bright red palm print instantly appeared on the fair cheeks of the little girl. Rosin fell to the ground with a sudden slap that made her look like Venus, and she crouched down for a while without recovering. Bastard, who asked you to bring the young lady out? Song Hongchun values it more than his life, this dog servant is so brave. 446 was not that angry. What made him angry was whether Song Hongchun would continue to cooperate if this fragile chip went wrong. Rosin is still there in a daze. Father Song suddenly playfully grabbed Rosin's neck, holding her in mid-air, letting her blush and struggle with all her might. The breathless and chaotic kicking of his legs and feet, coupled with the grinning Song father, made Chen Tong feel uneasy. Chen Tong is almost certain that he will kill in the next second. No, we can't go out now. Xiaowei transformed into a ghost and hugged Chen Tong's thigh. Seeing 996 rushing out to save people, this old system can't just watch newcomers work in the fire pit. The actions of the task takers cannot interfere with each other, otherwise the other party will sue you and put you on the law enforcement team's care list. You won't have time to cry. Interns touching the main task maker's mold is a big taboo. Besides, it took a few days for the 996 to act like a fool and his brain went crazy. Didn't you see that Song Hongchun was full of water? Just now, I was quite calm. What's going on now? Chen Tong clenched and loosened his fists, and sweat as big as beans flowed down his temples. She couldn't leave just in a moment's thought, but if she turned a blind eye, Rosin was afraid to suffocate. There is both reason and sensibility. After all, she once had a chivalrous and righteous dream. Instead of being like this now, hiding in the cracks and watching people slaughter the weaker side without being indifferent. Move aside. Chen Tong picked up little A and gently moved it aside. It persisted in sticking to it again, but this time it was released 3 meters away by Chen Tong's leg. This secret script is really worth practicing. Little A, who pounced on the ground with a mouthful of dirt, could only extend Kong's hand from a distance. Don't. No, are you finished with what you're doing here? You can go out now. The secret scripts are all disposable, so if you go out rashly, you won't be able to enter again next time. Hey. No problem, the rules of the sect are weeding out the strong and supporting the weak, and upholding justice, which the master will understand. Baldness. JPG, another worry-free one. What kind of commotion is going on with this full second-year middle school temperament? Chen Vexia sneaked through the crevice. It's just that welcoming her is not a grand scene, but a dark night with no visible fingers. Chen Tong is very anxious. She came out to save people and believes that time is the theory of life. The struggle of rosin still lingered in her ears, as she opened her eyes and felt from head to toe in the darkness, only vaguely knowing the exact outline of this thing. Is it a wooden box? Why are there still two exits on both sides? Moving forward is a long tube, above which. Is there a ball? What kind of thing needs a box and a ball on top? Oh, I found it. The switch should be here. Pop, the light is on. Oh no, it's Song Zhixi, who opened his eyes. Chen Tong manipulated Song Zhixi to stand up in a place that Song's father couldn't see. Previously, staying up late had poor senses, but after practicing martial arts, his 5 senses improved. Song Zhixi's stagnant body was obviously not like that of a 16.17 girl. To put it bluntly, it doesn't even look very personal. There is an inexplicable dullness, similar to phone delay. Dad. In order to save others, she recognized the thief as her father. Father Song was clearly frightened enough by this greeting, and the rosin was abandoned on the ground, gasping for breath like the rest of his life after the disaster. The muddy corners of those pants walked towards her with the smell of mud in the field. As soon as she opened her mouth, she rolled her eyes and fainted on the ground. Chen Tong is very confused. She hasn't made a move yet. Song's father coughed twice like choking water over there, then suddenly sat up and pretended to get up to check on Song Zhixi's condition. The step that Chen Tong instinctively took back was something that Song's father had never expected. This froze his movements as he stood up. Song Hongchun looked at the pale and coughing rosin beside him, and then at Song Zhixi, who was avoiding him like a snake or scorpion. Suddenly, his heart felt blocked and he spat out a large mouthful of black blood. Someone in the void jumped and shouted at the sight. Song Hongchun, what's the taste of backlash? I gave you immortality, and if I want to crush you, it's as easy as pinching an ant. If you dare to rebel against me, believe it or not, you can kill her. Father Song sat back silently, took out a cloth bag from his arms, took out fresh ingredients, and placed them on the crown scarf. The noisy voices were instantly isolated. Good Song Hongchun, shield me with the materials I gave, right? You're too scared. 446 wandered and cursed angrily, as if he was about to start fighting in the next second. His system, on the other hand, poured hot oil onto the fire in a strange and sinister way. It's really amazing, 446. It was pinched like this by an ancient person, and I'm not shy, he said, what do you understand? This is a strategy of advancing by retreating. Do you think he can take a few days? When he revises Jian, I must have done them both unconsciously. After saying that, 446 was using some dirty words again, skillfully turning off synesthesia and forcing himself to stay out of the situation. It doesn't have time to deal with developed limbs and simple-minded idiots. The top priority is to find the unknown internship system and figure out how Song Zhixi suddenly came up with a puppet. The latter doesn't matter, mainly the former. I don't know which opponent found a replacement for the dead ghost. Speaking of which, it can be considered unlucky. If it weren't for 446, the bastard who offended the princess in the dress at first sight, being beheaded, it wouldn't have been stuck in this crack with him all day, even searching for information would have been so troublesome. Now we still need to help this filthy guy save the money. We must not let the other party know that his action person died in a non-supernatural mission. Regardless of whether the other party is willing or not, it must remain silent. I don't mind helping it shut up. End of this chapter.